How you guys doing?
Good, bro. How are you?
Just getting back in the flow. I had a little walkthrough at a property that we're flipping in St. Augustine, so I was running a little bit late, but looks like we made it to the meeting.
Let's go. To,
The bridge is nicer.
I'm in space.
You're in space now.
I never messed with none of these before, so
I get kicked out from my own meetings. Can you hear me?
mm-hmm.
All right, nice. Good deal. Uh, Ahmed, can you tell us about the deal that you got locked up?
Back to back to back.
Yes.
Okay, so that's deal in Akron, Ohio.
Akron.
Yeah.
Acorns. Is it acorns?
No, it's Akron.
Akron. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Akron.
it's spelled like Akron. Okay, but they say it Akron. Anyway,
We've done a deal there, so that's why.
so I called the owner like I got this lead from a cold call from my VAs.
Okay.
And then I was trying to call him for like a few days, well, 2 to 3 times maximum. Okay, for like 2 days. And then when I watched this video that you and Dom posted, I was like, let me give it a shot and call him more than once. I called him like 6, 7 times. And then his wife picked up the line. She was like, yeah, he's just picking up something. He'll be back shortly. And guess what? Like 2 minutes later, he called. We started talking about the property. I was like initially talking about one property.
Okay.
And then he was like, yeah, I have other properties that I want to sell if you're
Okay.
interested. Like, yeah, sure, tell me more about them. So they're in good condition, they're rented out. Like, I would say maybe light rehab that is needed. And then, like, we agreed on the numbers. I negotiated. He was asking for like 260 something. We got it at 230. Okay, he
Do you want to
agreed.
show us the deal?
Sure, let me pull it up. Let me
Here, just give me you can chat the address in and let me see if I can pull it up.
let me pull those up.
So is this a cash deal that you're gonna do or what is this?
Yeah, that's gonna be a cash deal.
And how are you gonna assign it since it's in Ohio?
So I I'm gonna post on Facebook. Okay, I know some realtors over there.
Okay.
Remember I told you I did some deals in Ohio, so like I have some cash buyers as well that I'm gonna text or that I
Nice.
already started texting. We have
Did
someone
you
interested. Okay, he's still
we
like
have a few buyers in that area actually that are strong buyers that are cash buyers.
actually. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I can send those to you. I mean, we can work it out together.
Well, let's see if it's a good deal
Okay,
first.
yeah,
Did you
here.
message it in?
Just I'm trying to pull it up. Okay, hold on. Uh, yeah.
No pressure, man. We only have 10 people waiting on you.
Okay, so yeah, one of them is in Can. Okay, here I found them.
You got it?
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Aldo looks like he's in head value.
You're breaking up, Dom, very badly. Something's wrong with your internet, probably. All right, I got the deal. Let me pull it up. Okay, there we go. Is this it? Canton?
One of them is in Canton.
Okay.
The
Oh,
other
you
two
got
are in Akron.
multiple?
Yeah, 3 houses.
Nice. Nice. All right, let's look at this one. So 3 bed, 2 bath, 2,000 square feet. Is this rented?
Mm-hmm.
How much?
That's the one in Canton. Here, let me tell.
How much is this one rented for?
Hold on. Okay.
How do you track all your deals? Do you have like a CRM or something?
I have them on a CRM, but those are not like I just kept them on the calendar. Okay, on my
Okay.
calendar. So that's why. Okay. So the one in Canton is rented for $500.
500?
Yeah.
It says the estimate is 1,400.
Yep. He's a
Okay.
tired landlord. He doesn't want to. He actually lives here in Florida.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, man, I just want to get rid of them
Okay.
and cash out, enjoy my life.
Nice. And so don't tell me how much you have it for. I'm just gonna tell you what number I would have locked it up at. And let's compare the two.
All
How's
right.
that?
Sure. You want me to give you like briefly the
Yeah,
condition?
I mean, I'm assuming it's rented, so it's livable, right?
Yeah, it's livable.
Okay.
So roof is almost 15 years. It was a duplex. He turned it into a single family house. New furnace, AC unit. He has 2 electric meters. Okay, because it was a duplex. It was 4 2.5, 4 bedrooms, 2.5, and now it's 3 2, 2,100 square feet, two staircases, and like one in the back, one in the front. There's a like small crack in the ceiling, okay, from the main staircase, the front one. He tried to fix it, but it's like the staircase is a little bit creaky
Mm-hmm.
because of it. It's all woodwork in the house, brand new sidings. It might need a new window. It's replumbed, PVC,
So what would you
refinished
say the
kitchen.
number is of repairs, price-wise?
I mean, it's like maybe like I mean, it wouldn't be more than $10,000.
Would you say it looks kind of like this on the inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
hold
then,
on. That's when he bought it, right?
no, this is a
No,
different
hold.
property.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So that means
Mhm.
that this estimate is probably correct here, right? Because there's a property that sold for 97,000. That's 2,000 square feet, for two. And then there's another one that sold for 99. That's also roughly 2,000 square feet. And both of them sold recently. So in 2024, probably the last 6 months. Now this one that sold for 99 is brick and it has a separate garage. Does this one have parking, off-street parking? It doesn't look
Off-street.
like it. Oh, it's just off-street parking, but no garage, looks like, right?
No garage. Yeah, no garage.
Yeah. So I don't know. Garage might not add a lot of value, but I'd say, yeah, roughly 90 to 95 is what it's worth, right? Now it's being
Mhm.
rented for $500 a month. So it's definitely underperforming. So I would say a cash buyer would probably want to buy this thing for about, let's see, and you're probably going to look for a landlord and not a flipper because it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like this would be a flip because there's not enough margin there. So if it's worth, let's say 95 grand, they're probably going to want at least a 20 to 25% discount. So at 25% discount, they'd probably be buying it at 70 as a max. So I would lock this up at roughly 45, 50,000.
Yeah, that's what I have it at.
Okay. So what do you have it at?
50.
50?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I think it's a movable deal. That's pretty good. Do you think you have room to renegotiate with that seller and get him lower?
Yeah, But I need to give him some time to rest.
To
Because
acclimate?
like that, yeah, because that was like more than an hour of a conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job, man. Good job. So
Yeah.
what's the property? What's the other one that's in Acorn? Did you put that in?
Yeah, I sent you all three of them.
Okay,
The other
let's
one
see.
is 268 Morning View Avenue.
Okay, let's see this. I'm gonna be a little quicker on this one, on my valuation. Is this it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we actually sold one very close by to this. The good thing is that this is actually in the city. The one that we sold actually was even out of the city, so it was like
Yeah.
somewhere here, like outside. So it was more rural. So this one, the Zest is showing 83. Let's see what we have. And just so you know, what I'm doing is I always open two tabs. So I open one tab in Zillow that shows me the property. That way I can always refer back to the bed, bath count, and square footage. And then I open the area to see what actually sold in that area, right? And then I'm filtering my comps based on what that property is. So I'm going to go 500 to 1,000. This is a 720 square foot house. So I'm going to look at 500 to 1,000 square feet. And I'm going to look in the last 12 months first, right? If I have too many comps, I might reduce this down to 6 months.
Yep.
And let's see. So it's 2 bed, 1 bath. So we got a 2 bed, 1 bath here that sold for 35, right? We don't see the pictures, so we don't really know the condition. Sometimes they'll put condition in the details. But see, even though it closed for 35, the Zest is actually 88. So this is kind of questionable, but it's an identical house, it seems like, right? Would you agree with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems
So
like
let
the
me tell you
exact
about
same
this
house.
house. Okay, it actually needs a new bathroom sink and the fan.
Uh-huh.
There's a new shower, new windows, hardwood floors. Needs like some refinishes, some
So how
like
much money
paint.
does it need?
Uh, Again, like I mean, it's rented out as well.
Okay,
Okay,
how much is it bringing in rent?
600.
Oh, this one's bringing in more than the other one?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason is, okay, that's a very long-term tenant. Okay, like all his tenants are like have been there for so long and they're just good tenants
Okay,
keeping the property in a good shape. Not a lot,
right.
they don't complain at all, so it's like I'll just
Okay,
keep the rent as it is.
okay.
Roof has been there for more than 7 years. He
So
doesn't
I
know
would
when the roof.
say
Mhm,
this is probably closer to ARV.
mhm.
Um, would you say it needs like 15 grand, 10 to 15 grand,
10, I would be like somewhere around 10.
10 grand? So I'd say this one, I would probably lock it up for no more than 35, 40,000.
No, I locked it up at a higher price,
What price?
55.
Yeah, I think this one's too high. I think you're gonna have a tough time with this one. Because it's very small, first of all. A lot of buyers don't like one bathroom.
Yeah.
It's not as desirable as a rental either. And then there is a comp that is going to throw everybody off. This one right here, right? So
Oh,
it's sold for 36 grand.
are there any pictures for this? Oh,
There
no.
are no pictures. Now,
When was
sometimes
it
they don't,
sold?
just recently in
Oh,
September. So
okay.
sometimes you will find pictures on other websites. So I'll always
Yeah,
check
maybe
if I
Redfin.
really am curious. But it looks like this was like an off-market purchase. So again, it might be an outlier, but I think every buyer is going to bring this to your attention because it's literally the house next door. It's 266. Yeah, it's super close, right?
Mhm.
Now there is another one that sold for 86 that's similar, but it's in really decent condition, right?
Yeah.
I think this one needs nothing at all. So if you have it at 55, in my opinion, buyers are going to come in. They're going to, oh yeah, I need to put another 10 grand in this. and the tenant is not paying a lot. So I think buyers are gonna be paying like 50 to maybe 55,000 for this one.
Okay.
So I'd say this one
Needs
probably
to be
35 grand.
renegotiate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always
Um,
renegotiate it.
So let's look at the last one that you locked up. Zest 100 grand, Acorn. So let's see here. Akron, whatever.
Yeah.
Leave me alone, man. It's a village town.
Does
Uh,
nobody
I've
like
been
live
there,
in the
by the way.
city?
Say what?
Does nobody like live in the city?
This probably is a city.
No, it is a city,
Uh,
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's
Akron
see.
is a city.
So
And I've
Akron
been there.
Come on, y'all.
population.
LeBron James is from
188,000.
Akron.
Oh,
Come on, guys.
188,000
Is he?
people. I take it back. Who is from there, Jonathan?
LeBron James, man. Come on.
No, he's not.
He really is. Where he grew up.
Is he? Is he from Battery Street?
That would add more value to the property.
Oh yeah. I guess this one's close by to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the Zest is probably correct
Yeah,
too,
it's,
because
yeah.
it's a little bigger, right? 1,200 square feet. So it's probably
Yeah.
closer to 100,000. Does it need any work, and how much?
That's Battery Street. So one bedroom needs a drywall and a paint. Okay, there's a new furnace, new water tank. Roof is like 7, 8 years old. It's rented for 500.
Nice.
Yeah. He
Okay,
fixed the
so
bathroom, he fixed the shower.
let me guess, you're gonna
He
say it needs
painted
10K.
everything. Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe less.
that. Oh, that's a different property, I think.
I would literally advertise that by saying right next to where LeBron James grew up.
Cool.
Very
So
accurate. Very accurate.
I would say that this one for a cash buyer to buy probably 60, 65 also, maybe 70 is what they would pay as a rental. Probably 65. So I'd lock it up at like 45,000.
Yeah, I have it at 45.
Okay. So you did
Okay.
good on this.
Yeah.
So you only messed up one. That's okay. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. That's it. 66%. I'm
Good job,
passing.
man. Now, what are the terms that you structured with the seller? How many days you have to close? And is there any inspection period, and how long?
Well, I have until mid of, or not mid of February, actually, after mid of February.
Nice.
So let me
And what
pull up
about
the
inspections?
inspection? He was like, take as much time as you want. So I told him,
Nice.
yeah, like
Sounds
I'll
like
just
our
send
kind of
someone.
guy.
Yeah. No, he's one of the best people that I spoke to maybe this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's just because you called back to back to
Too
back.
flexible. Back to back to back.
Sam and I try to
Nice.
hire people like that. We want those people on the team.
The back to back to back team.
Yeah, tell them about
Yeah.
Colby, Sam.
Yeah, Joe Colby. Yeah, we have a seller who sold us a house. He was like he's probably the best seller we've ever worked with. And
Yeah.
And the best
He's the guy-
salesperson we ever had.
he's the best salesperson, because we made 45,000 on the house that we sold for him.
Yeah.
And then he referred us his sister-in-law, and we made it $60,000 off of him. So he brought $100,000 into the company.
Jonathan almost bought Venus from us,
Yeah.
but Jonathan lowballed us.
Yes.
That's my job.
He definitely comes to the Wednesday training. So
It's very hard to sell anything to Jonathan, man.
Hey,
So
but I do buy.
Jonathan, how many properties do you have cumulatively?
Oh man, that doesn't matter.
Hundreds.
Yeah, three,
So
400 plus. I'm not sure of the number
you
right now.
you should say I don't
But
have
I'll
any.
look,
It's it's all is it all
but I'll
owned by
sell
a
them.
trust?
But,
Is
but
it
I'll
all?
sell them to you.
Oh yeah.
Look, I'll sell them for the prices y'all sell stuff for.
Mm.
I'll buy at my own number.
All right, all right. Cool. So Ahmed, that's a good job, man. Congratulations on those deals.
Thank
I
you,
think you
thank you.
stand to make like 30, 40 grand on this.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing
That's
I would I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it, but float it to all your cash buyers, float it to your agents, see if you can get any action. If you can't, maybe we can float it to our people. And then if you still don't get activity, which I think you should, but if you still don't get activity, I think you should maybe not necessarily renegotiate the price, although that would be nice. But I think you might want to convert it to an ovation contract and list it on MLS.
possibly, but I just no, I just like renegotiate and sell it to a cash buyer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think this would move. This would move. Cool, good deal. Well, that's a great job, man. I'm glad that you got this done.
Yes, sir.
So, let me, where's my Zoom? All right. So today, what I wanted to go over is I wanted to kind of outline the differences between seller financing and subject to transaction. Because a lot of people have been asking me, like, you know, what situations do I even pitch seller finance? What situation do I pitch sub to? And then how to even identify what the differences are and how to explain that to the seller. So I want to start by saying this. Subject to is just a form of seller financing, right? So there is this whole umbrella of what creative finance is, right? And even novations is part of creative finance. But essentially anything under the umbrella of creative finance is essentially the same as everything under the umbrella of seller finance. And creative finance basically is the same thing, right? So under seller financing, you have multiple exit strategies. So you have subject to transactions, you have where you are taking over a mortgage, you have subject, and that's subject to existing mortgages, right? You then have subject to existing liens. That's also creative finance, and that's all subject to transaction. So for example, you're buying a house, let's say there's an open permit on it that doesn't get closed out, or let's say there is an AC company that sold that seller an AC or that owner an AC on financing contingencies or financing terms. So somebody bought a $20,000 AC, which we've seen plenty of those, and they're financing it at $100 a month, right? That could be taken over subject to, and you don't necessarily have to pay that off. Same thing goes for any other kind of holdbacks or liens that are attached to the property. So it could be mechanics liens, it could be municipal liens, it could be that the utility company placed the lien on the property, it could be that the city placed, so the municipal lien on the property. There are also rolling fines, which is like when the city comes out and does some work and then you don't pay them and they turn it into a rolling fine, meaning every day it rolls more money rolls onto that lien. So there was a property that we transacted on here in Jacksonville. It was a parcel of land with a mobile home, and the city looks like the sellers burned something on that property illegally, and then left all the ashes and everything from that fire on the land, and the city came in and cleaned it up, and they fined him for first, unauthorized burning at the property, and also for picking up all that garbage, right, and making it safe again. So the rolling fine was so big because he wasn't paying attention to it, and he wasn't paying it for 2.5 years, it was almost 100. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, it was almost $160,000, right? And the property was worth 30 grand. So you have to figure out solutions for those issues as well. And what we ended up doing is we structured a transaction where the buyer purchased the property for 20 grand and he took over that rolling fine. So he bought the property with a title exception to that rolling fine, which is subject to, existing lien. And what he did is he went to the city and he negotiated them down to $1,500. Because the city would rather take $1,500 than nothing. They understand they're not going to get 160 grand, especially if the issue is fixed, right? And the violation is fixed. So all those things are under the umbrella of creative finance, and under the umbrella of creative finance, we have seller financing, and then under the umbrella of seller financing, there is subject to transactions. Now, here is the more broad difference between sub 2 and seller finance. And I probably would want to open like a Google Doc and share my screen. So let's do this here. All right. So we have seller financing, and then we have subject to transactions. Now, in seller financing, typically the biggest reason that the seller would do that transaction with you is because they're going to be gaining more by doing seller finance versus selling any other way. If there is subject to transaction and the seller is going to agree, in most cases, it's going to be a seller who has pain or little to no equity. So you're going to have houses that have a mortgage, and after that seller sells the property, let's say the property is worth 200 grand and the mortgage is, let's say, 185,000, right? Now, if this person goes to realtor, they're going to put the house on the market, and at 200,000, the realtor commissions at 6% is 12 grand. Now, on top of this, they have to pay closing costs. So on a $200,000 transaction, it's typically 2 to 3%. So that's going to be another $5,000. So 12 plus 5 is 17 minus 200. And minus plus 185. So that's the mortgage. They only have $2,000 in equity, right? So a lot of people would tell you, oh yeah, I owe 185 on my house and it's worth 200,000 and I have 15 grand in equity. That 15 grand in equity is evaporated real quick. Why? Because if you have $15,000 in equity, that equity is only considered equity if you can capture it after you sell your property, right? Even if you go refinance, you're not going to be able to refinance this property because the bank wouldn't lend you more than 75, 80%, maybe 90% if it's your primary residence. So people who consider that they have equity, you'll have to walk them through that scenario and make them understand that equity is not what the difference is between the value of your property and the mortgage. Equity is the difference between the value of your property, your mortgage, and the cost to sell that asset. So typically, a cost to sell an asset is 10%. So you can very easily have that conversation because you're going to pay 6% to agents, you're going to pay 2%, 2 to 3% in closing costs, and then you're going to pay 1 to 2% in buyer concessions for you to be able to sell your property, because No house, even new construction house, is going to be perfect, and every house is going to have certain issues that are going to come up throughout the transaction. So that's why the biggest difference between sellers, now this is a seller trait, right? So it's more of a type of seller that you're going to come across in these transactions rather than a requirement for the deal to be a subject to transaction. But one of the biggest traits in transactions like this is going to be seller has boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 1 million, 1 million. All right, somebody had a question? Okay, so once again, in situations like this, in most cases, your seller is going to have strong motivation to move. One of the primary key examples is it's a VA seller and they're being relocated, right? So they have a VA loan. Why is that a common seller? Because most people who are getting a VA loan are putting 0% down, right? And in a lot of cases, in order for you to even get a house VA, you have to bid the full asking price because, you know, the seller on the other side might not want to take your offer because VA is less attractive, because the loan procedure and the loan process is more difficult to qualify for, which makes it more difficult for the seller to actually sell the house to a VA buyer. But now, once the VA buyer owns that asset, they've paid full price, they put $0 out of their pocket for a down payment, and a lot of the times they even roll the closing costs into the loan. So a $200,000 house, they owe $205,000, right? Especially if they bought it in the last 2 to 3 years. So what's going to happen? Well, if they go to sell it, they need to write a check. That's the only way they would sell it if they sell it traditionally. That's why for them, it's a very attractive option because somebody's taking over your payments. And on top of that, in a lot of cases, you're also going to propose to give them stuff. So anyway, their options is sell and take a loss and bring money to the closing table, or do a subject to route and put money in my pocket. Now, why is it that they would have little equity, right? Because, you know, some people would say, well, if the person bought a house, didn't they build equity over time? The answer is yes. However, if they bought a $200,000 house and they want to sell it in 3 years, in most cases, that house is not going to appreciate. Maybe like 3 to 5% it would appreciate, but in most cases, it wouldn't appreciate more than that, right? So that's why that's little to no equity. Now, in particular, if you bought a house on the market, which most people buy houses on the market, that means you paid market value and you paid pretty much top dollar, right? So for you to be able to get out of that asset, you need to wait a significant amount of time for that house to appreciate. Now, again, most buyers that buy on the market on the MLS are going to be paying the market value, and the market value is usually the highest at the time that that property is being sold, right? So unless there's a major shift in the market and everything goes up by 20%, these people basically have no choice but to do sub 2. Now, you know, a lot of people are throwing these leads away because this is garbage to them, and you know, they can't make money off of this lead because, you know, the mortgage is too high and there's no equity in the deal for you to make sense of it. So that's why also a lot of people would skip trace leads that have high equity. So one of the most popular lists to pull to give to VAs, Ahmed probably could attest to that, is when you're pulling a list, you're checking a filter to look for people who have high equity or own their houses free and clear for you to call them. Is that true or not?
That's right.
Okay. So we actually would pull in some instances lists with no equity. So we would check it off the opposite way. Now, how many people do you think are doing that? Almost nobody. So we would go and we would cross-check the houses that have, you know, up to 10% equity in them. And then we would call those people, and we're the only people that are providing them a solution, right? So for us, it's a golden lead because we are probably one of the only people who are actually going to provide them with a solution and not tell them, hey, I can't do anything for you. Because in a lot of cases, it's also expired listings. So you can cross match a list of, you know, 10% equity and failed listings, and you can find all of that in PropStream because you can find properties that have been on MLS and been withdrawn, and then you cross-pollinate it with 10% equity or up to 10% equity, and then you call those people. That's the perfect sub-tool list to call. And now, when you're calling these people, you already know they put it on the market. The agent failed, couldn't solve their problem, and they have no equity, so they really have no choice to sell, but they've expressed an intent to sell that property, right? The highest intent of selling the property is actually putting it on the market with a realtor. So any lead, any house that's on the market is a motivated seller, kind of, right? There's levels of motivation, but anybody who put their house on the market is going to have some kind of need to sell it. Now, the realtor couldn't solve their problem. Any cash buyer they probably spoke with couldn't solve their problem. Now, if you were calling them and you're like, hey, I know you couldn't sell this house, and I know you were asking for $250,000. I see your mortgage is 230, or like, let's say you find out the mortgage from them. Your mortgage is 230. What if I could give you the 20 grand and pay you the full price and just take over your mortgage instead of paying it off? Right? For these people, that should be a much easier conversation because they already try to sell. They want to sell. Nobody could just come to their price. So you're calling them and saying, hey, what if I pay you full price on your house? Would you want to do business with me? It's now a much easier conversation. Where is Miriam here? Miriam, are you driving? She's probably driving and maybe drinking at the same time.
Hey, yes. Sorry, I am driving. I have you mute so you don't have a back noise.
No worries, no worries. So I wanted to ask you, because I think last time we spoke, you were going to pull some lists. Did you ever get into that? And did you ever talk to any sellers directly?
No, I am talking to actually to two sellers right now. I'm gonna meet on Monday with the seller.
Are you considering cash offers for them?
I am considering cash offer for one, yes, and then the other one wants a lot of money.
Nice. So do you
So
know
I
if the
don't
other
think I'm
one
going.
owns it? Do you know if the other one owns it free and clear?
Yes, free and clear.
Okay.
And he's going through struggle right now, financial struggle. So it should be an easy sell, but we'll see when I go to the meeting.
Okay. That's great. So here's what
Yeah.
I would recommend. If you have somebody who owns a house free and clear and they want more money than the house is worth, that's a perfect candidate for doing seller finance and owner carryback. Here's why. So with owner carryback, I can make any price work. Even if the house is worth 100 grand, I can pay $1 million for it, as
Okay.
long as the terms make sense. Here's an example. Somebody wants $1 million and it's $100,000 house. This is an unrealistic example, right? It's taking it to the
Right.
extreme. I would say, listen, I will pay you your $1 million. I want a 75-year note. So I'm going to pay it off in 75 years. And I'm going to put $5,000 down. And I'm going to pay you $300 a month or $100 a month with no interest. And I'll pay you $1 million. Now, is that a likely scenario? Most likely not. But if somebody's asking for $1 million, I will say, listen, I'm the guy who will give you $1 million. Let's do the transaction, but you have to be flexible with terms. So in most scenarios, though, you're going to come across sellers who are asking, say, 350 or 400 grand for a $325,000 property. So in those scenarios, it's much easier to structure those deals because you can actually pay reasonable amounts, right? So if they're going super unreasonable amount that they want for the property, you have to go to super unreasonable terms that you're going to offer them. Super low down payments, super low payments, and maybe no interest, right? On the
Right.
other hand, if you have somebody who's, closer to reality and they just want a little more than market value, I would gladly pay more than market value. But hey, I want 2% interest rate and I want as little down as possible. And I want my loan to be amortized, say, over 40 years. Or I want my loan to be amortized over 35 years. Whatever is going to make sense for me to actually pay that person and still be able to cash flow. And here's how I determine my, because at that point, I don't care about the price. I'm going to hold that property. So this is what I care about. I want to know the revenue I can generate on that deal. So i.e. rent. How much would this property rent for? Let's say in this scenario, the rent on this property is $1,000, right? And let's say the seller is asking for 130 grand asking price, right? Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reverse engineer my offer and I'm going to give him an offer based on what I can produce with that asset. So I'm going to take my $1,000 and I'm going to multiply it by 0.7. This is taking away 30% for expenses on that property. That leaves me with $700 per month in net operating income. So this net operating income is basically all of your revenues minus all of your expenses, except for the mortgage payment and depreciation. So you're going to have $700 a month left over for you to be able to distribute between you and the seller. I want to make, so my preferred cash flow on this deal, let's say, is $250 a month, right? I'm going to take my $700. I'm going to deduct $250 that I want to make in cash flow. And I have left over $500. So my first offer that I'm going to make to the seller is I'm just going to offer him $500 a month and as low of a down payment as I possibly can. And I'm going to say, I will pay your price. I will even pay more than your price if I have to. I'll even pay $140,000, but I want the terms. And here's what the terms are going to be. And then the terms would be $500 to seller as payments. And then I have my expenses, right?
Do you
So
do it as a
30%.
balloon with a balloon payment or like?
I never mentioned the balloon myself. So here is another two key things when you're negotiating seller finance deals. Don't ever negotiate against yourself and don't put yourself in a corner to negotiate against yourself. You don't have to bring up balloons. You also don't have to bring up interest. So when I make these offers and I tell the seller, hey, I'm going to pay you $500, I'm going to pay you $130,000, your asking price. Here's the terms I can offer you. It's $500 a month that I'm going to pay you. I'm not going to say this is 2% interest, 3% interest. I'm not even going to mention interest at all. If they mention it and they say, hey, how much interest are you paying me? Then we can have that conversation. But from the get-go, I assume that I'm getting this at 0% interest because I'm paying a higher price. Does that make sense?
That's powerful.
So a lot of sellers wouldn't even think to ask for that, right? Now, if it's a super educated seller and they know exactly what they're doing and this is not their first transaction, they will ask. But in most cases, people don't even know they could, hey, I could charge interest. No. Why would you bring that up? Right? And if they do bring it up, and you feel like you have to get 0% interest, you can make a very, very strong argument. You can say, listen, Mr. Seller, I understand you would want to charge me interest. However, I'd like to point out one very important thing. Everybody who came to you has never offered you $130,000 for your property. I'm actually paying more for your property. So you're technically getting more money for your property. So the interest is technically built into that offer, right? Now, then you're going to go back and forth and you're going to agree and disagree. And then you can start discussing interest. Even if you agree and even if you're doing a deal and the seller has to get interest, you want to make sure that with interest, your payment is still going to be $500 a month and no more than that, so you can cash flow. Here's how you do that. Super, super difficult. All you need to do is go to Google and type in mortgage calculator. Boom. It's going to bring up, you can open any one of these websites. I actually like the Google's one, but it looks like they took it off. I'm not sure why. But typically you would go to a mortgage calculator. You're cutting out, Dom. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Everybody can hear me? Okay. So you'd go to a mortgage calculator, you'd type in the price, $130,000, right? Let's say you're putting, I don't know, 5% down. You'd figure out what your loan term is going to be. Most of the time, it's going to be 30-year. And this is not loan term, actually. This is just the amortization, right? And then you're going to, so you have your, so for the sake of this argument, I'm going to have no insurance and no property taxes, but you should, you know, calculate that in and roll that in real deals. But this is just for simplicity purposes. And you would put something like 2% interest. And let's say not include taxes and insurance. So let's see at 2% interest, what is my payment? Down payment, $6,500. Total interest, here's my monthly payment, $456.48, right? So let's say I want to get closer to 500, 2.5%, 2.75%. There you go, $500. So now I'm going to offer that seller a 30-year amortization and 2.75% interest so that my payment can be $500. That's how I do that. And now this loan is amortized at this interest rate. Here is, so $500, and here is where sellers will probably give you pushback. I don't want to hold a note for 30 years, right? So that's when you talk about balloon payments. And that's when you talk about, hey, potentially I could make it work. Because if you are not going to, if you're not going to make them an offer that doesn't include all those things up front, in very rare instances, they would think to bring those things up, and they would only bring them up as actual objections. And then it seems like you're actually handling their objection and trying to adjust to them and make things work. And now notice how the power shifts here, because I give them one offer and I keep coming up on my offer. Every time I adjust a term, that's coming up on the offer for seller financing. So I gave them an offer initially, it had 0% interest. Hey, you want interest too? Okay, well, I don't typically, when we pay more for the properties, we usually do principal only payments. This is also an important term. You don't ever say, I'm going to pay you 0 interest, because that sounds very sharky. So instead, you'd say, we're going to make principal only payments. And, you know, that's when they're going to bring things up and say, hey, you know what? I understand that. Let's go ahead and figure something out so that you pay me interest, because otherwise I'm not going to do a deal. And that's when you go in and you say, okay, well, let's figure out how to put interest in this and you'll make even more money. However, my payment cannot change from $500. Otherwise, I don't make any money on this transaction, right? So the other thing is going to be, I don't want to hold a note because once you amortize it and you do interest payments, now your loan goes from, so for example, here it was $500 a month, right? For 130 grand. So if we're doing $130,000 purchase price minus, let's say, $6,500 down payment, that's $123,500 in principal balance. Divide that by 500, that's 247 months. That is 20 years. So now if you add a 2.75% interest rate, they're going to collect 10 years more from you, right? And here in this calculator, you can see that you're going to actually pay the 123.5 plus $58,000. So in this case, you are actually gonna first pitch them and say, hey, you know what? I understand that you don't want to hold a loan for 30 years, but I'm actually gonna pay you an extra $60,000 if you do. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. Let's go ahead and still structure the deal and let's figure out how many years can you hold off before I pay this off in full. And that's when you do a balloon clause. Does everybody here know what balloon clause is? If somebody doesn't know, can you please raise your hand? And I'm going to assume that some people don't, and they're not going to say it. So let me explain it just in case. Essentially, balloon clause is when you have a mortgage and you decide to pay that mortgage on a certain year. So the reason it's called balloon is because you're inflating the balloon and at one point it pops, right? So it would be a 30-year mortgage, let's say, and you agree to pay it off in full on year 5. So you're making payments as if it's a 30-year mortgage, right? So you'd make $504.18 payments every month. But then whatever the principal balance is that's left over on year 5, you have to pay that off in full as one payment. And the reason you'd agree to that is because you can at that point sell the property or refinance it, right? And hopefully it's worth more. Now, one very important thing I do on any time I do a balloon clause, because you have to protect yourself. What if it doesn't appraise? What if the market takes a dip? What I do is when I write a balloon clause, I put a contingency in there. Here's my contingency. If balloon, then I need property to appraise. Meaning, if there is a balloon payment that I have to make, then I'm going to put a clause in the contract that states that in 5 years, when I go to refinance the property or sell the property, it has to be appraised by an appraiser and it has to be worth the amount of money that I'm paying you. So $130,000. That's the only way I would put a balloon clause in there. The other way I would, so if it doesn't appraise, the question is, what if it doesn't appraise, right? If it doesn't appraise, then I get an extension in order for me to be able to capture more equity and actually refinance at the time the property is worth that. So if I have, let's say, 5-year balloon, I can ask for, let's say, a 3-year extension, right? And a lot of sellers would be okay with that because, hey, I'm paying you $130,000, so you clearly think your property is worth 130 grand, and it's obviously going to go up in price. So if you're confident in this deal and if you're confident in this property, there's no reason you wouldn't do it unless you're just totally screwing me. So, a lot of sellers would be totally okay with that. A lot of them wouldn't even question this. So anytime you do a balloon, once again, you want to protect yourself and you want to ask for an appraisal contingency. Does all of that make sense so far on seller financing? Where's Miriam?
Yes, makes total sense.
Miriam, are you going to be able to pitch this to the seller that's asking for a lot of money and they own the house free and clear?
Yes. So the one that was a lot of money, he has a loan in it,
Oh.
175,000. The one that is free and clear, I think she's gonna be easy. But yes, so that's so he just bought the property for 220,000 with the down payments, and his loan amount is 175. But he's running through some financial difficulties too. But I can definitely do that with him.
Is it a good mortgage with a good interest rate?
I think his interest rate is like 9%.
Is it a hard money loan or something?
Yes, I think so, which is
Oh,
still not bad for hard money lending.
yeah. Now, I always stay away from taking over those types of loans. Anytime we do subject to, the benefit in doing those deals is that you get a low interest rate. Now, if it's hard money and you're going to finish the project, in most scenarios, and this is a little subjective, but 99% of the time, that's just a bad deal because somebody
Right.
bought a house, they couldn't finish it, they couldn't renovate it, they give up on it. They've spent too much money and they owe too much money to the hard money lender. The best exit and the best solution in those instances, unfortunately for the seller, but for the hard money to foreclose and take that property and finish the project because they
Yeah.
are the ones accruing the interest. If another buyer comes along, unless you renegotiate with a hard money lender, in most instances, I see those as bad deals.
Yeah.
So
So I am sticking with him because he does have another property that's valued 300,000, and that one is paid off, but he doesn't want to sell it because he knows what he has.
okay.
So that's why I'm still entertaining him.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
there is a potential there, because they might not want to sell it because they don't think they'll get the price they want. But once
Right.
again, with seller carryback financing, you can make any price work.
Right.
So that's why I never discriminate against price. People that ask a lot of money, I love those leads. Nobody wants to talk to them.
I
They
know.
say that's an
That's
overpriced
difficult.
seller. I don't want to talk to that person. I love those people. Now, obviously, it still has to be a reasonable seller. They still have to understand, if we're paying more, what we're going to need from them as far as terms and stuff like that. And in a lot of cases, this is also a little
Mhm.
bit of a tactic. You don't want to present your terms. You actually would want to put yourself in a position to be able to say no to the seller, right? So the
Right.
way I pitch seller financing is I present the idea and I say, hey, I'm going to pay you your price, but I need you to be open to the terms that we need. And
Right.
then they're going to say, what are the terms and what terms do you need? And at that point, you explain to them and you say, listen, in this situation, I'm making you the bank on the transaction. So you're actually instead of being a landlord, you would be the bank because the landlord is the person everybody calls to fix toilets. Everybody calls to complain about. The bank doesn't like him. The tenant doesn't like him. Nobody likes the landlord, right? So in this case,
Right.
I'm going to make you a financial institution and you're going to collect money and you're going to have a white glove experience on the other side of real estate. So once you explain that to them and then they ask you for terms, you say, well, listen, you're the bank. So let's say the guy's name is Charles. Charles, you're the bank. I can't go to the bank and tell them what terms I can provide, right? The bank is going to laugh at me. I can't walk into Bank of America and say, hey, I'm going to buy this house. I can pay you 3% interest. Or I'm going to go to Bank of America and say, I need $1 million and I can pay $100 a month. They're going to laugh at me. When I go to the banks, they have certain programs and they have certain down payment programs, the certain interest rate and so on and so forth. Now,
Right.
if I'm doing a deal with you directly, we're cutting out the middleman and the money goes directly to you. So I'm going to look for terms to be more favorable than if I actually went to the bank, right? That's why I'm okay to pay more money for your house. And at that point,
Right.
they tell you, okay, well, I want 15% down and I want, you know, this much money a month. And then at that point, you're in a position to say no to them. Then you can say, listen, completely understand, that's not going to work. You can't have your
Right.
cake and can't bake the cake and eat it at the same time. Because if I'm paying you a higher price and you're giving me the same terms that the bank is giving me or worse, why would I ever pay you more money? And why would I ever go directly to you instead of an actual bank? Right? So
Right.
once again, you want to put yourself in a position to be able to say no to the seller. So that's why you get the terms from them first, and then you present your terms afterwards. Now,
Right.
all of
So yeah,
this happens only after, and this is the biggest key to any time you're talking to a seller. All of this happens only after you presented a real cash offer upon which you will actually close on the deal yourself. That's the only time you actually start presenting other things. If you have not presented a cash offer, even though if you know that the cash offer is not going to work, like the guy owes 170,000 and you're presenting 125 grand, you have to do that, because that's what's going to reset their expectations. And that's what's going to allow you to go back and say, well, listen, this is your first option. Your second option is this. Which one do
Right.
you like better? So in any circumstance and any scenario, the cash offer always gets presented first, and it always gets presented. It's an absolute must. You cannot pitch any offers until you presented the cash offer.
Right. I'm trying actually to come look at a house right now.
Is it one of those houses you were talking about?
No, it's a different one.
I gotcha.
It's a different one, but it's off the MLS, so we'll see how it's gonna work. But I can't get in, so let's figure out.
I gotcha.
It's
I gotcha.
I can give you the address if you want to look at it.
Sure. What you got?
It's 817 WREN Court. They want too much, so I wanted to come and see it. I like the neighborhood.
They want too much and you wanted to come see it?
Yeah, because they're impressed on selling it, so I think they'll take my offer.
Is this from a
Ren
wholesaler?
Road. No, it's out of the MLS.
It actually WREN.
Yeah,
It's on
It's
MLS.
road. Ren Road. Yeah, it's on the MLS, but it says it's under contract, but the current buyer had an emergency. So they're
So the buyer's backing out.
back. Yeah, exactly. But my agent is
Interesting.
holding it. My agent is holding it for me until I make a
Interesting.
decision.
What do you plan to do with this property?
Flip. Right now, I'm just
Okay.
gonna flip as much as I can.
And how much? By the way, did Dom ever send you the property that we have in this area?
Which
What
one?
was it?
Yes, Miriam is
Hey, Dom.
Miriam is cheating on us with other properties.
No, I'm not. I'm not picking on
Mm,
you. I'm still looking at the other ones, but this one is it just came up.
yeah, I know this neighborhood really well. We just what? We just closed the property over here recently.
Oh yeah?
Yes. So that's probably the one that Dom sent you. So we closed on it and we just
No, I sent her Yuli.
oh
Yeah,
no,
no, I
I'm
have the one I'm working
yeah.
with Dom right now is Yuli. I'm waiting right now for the hard money lender. He's running the numbers for me.
What about the one on Lofberg? You didn't send
Where?
that one, Dom? Lofberg?
Mm, I
Did
don't
not
think
send
so.
Lofberg, no.
Well, look at that. She's looking at houses right there.
He is cheating on me.
So he's cheating on you. He sent it to the other buyers.
Sorry, I was married
Yes.
to Yuli. I don't cheat with other properties.
It's okay. Just send me everything because I do have room for more.
So how much do you think you would offer on this deal, Miriam?
And this one, I don't know. I have to go inside. And right now, I can't go inside.
What's the ARV that you have on it? Well, but you've clearly seen the pictures, right?
Yeah, it's whatever shows in the MLS.
Right.
And that one, I think the ARV is 306. Let me look at the notes.
306 or 360?
No, I have to look at notes. Give me 1 sec. Oh shoot, it's on my email. I don't have the numbers here. I think it's
Because
306. If
I would say it's closer to 350 actually.
Yeah, I have to look at. I did all the work. It's on my email. Let me see.
Mm.
361,000.
361?
I came up with 32240 to 361.
Yeah, I'd put it at 350 easily.
Really?
Yeah, it's 1900 square feet in a block. Yeah, it's let's see. So there's one that's sold for
Yeah, because it needs a new
379.
HVAC and a new electrical panel. The roof is 4 years old, but I cannot get to the
Right.
house. I wanted to see inside. I know it's gonna need some TLC inside, but the roof is it's pretty good shape. I really like it because it's black. But send me the one that you have. Where's the one that you have? Is it down here? I can take a look at
It's
it.
it's very close by.
Okay.
Dom will send it to you, hopefully.
Dom, you gonna send it to me, or you don't want to cheat on the other buyer?
He said he will.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I guess we'll talk, Sam, because we had a decision to take on the project and do it ourselves, but I guess we don't mind sending it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll
I have
text
seen
it
it.
to you in a little while.
Do you want to?
So
Is it occupied right now? I can take a look at it because I live in St. Mary's, so I don't want to come back later.
oh yeah. I'll text you the
It's
information in like 5
it's vacant on
minutes.
a lockbox. Yeah, it's vacant on a lockbox. He'll just
Yes.
text it to you. It's nearby.
Are you a
But yeah,
realtor,
I
Miriam?
see.
No, I'm actually, funny enough, I'm a lender. I'm a mortgage lender, but I am an investor too. I've been doing this since 2016.
Oh, nice. Yeah, give me
But I
that
usually
5
buy and
minutes. I'll
hold.
text you the address and the lockbox code.
Yeah, so I don't have access to the MLS. So that's
Okay.
yeah. And it is fun. I like this. I enjoy it.
Yeah, this is not a bad project, Miriam. I think it's it seems like it's a decent, like the house has decent bones.
Yeah.
Just needs to be upgraded and updated. It has a decent sized lot. Do you know if it's on a septic or a city?
No, I don't know that. I think it's in the
Okay.
city just because they have the trash can out here. But that
Oh,
doesn't
there
mean
you go.
anything, right?
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so I have
actually,
to
yeah, the Zillow says it's public sewer and public water, so
good.
no
You need some
septic. So
painting outside, some reno on
yeah, you
timber.
could probably offer like 200 grand on this.
I
Up
was
to
thinking
200 grand.
$200,000 too, because they're gonna about to find out. They're about to find out that they are not going to have. All right,
A
Dom, I got it.
buyer.
Thank you. Yeah. But I
Yeah,
do need to get one or two. So if you,
that's a
I am
decent,
going to go
that's a
see the
decent
other
deal.
one.
That's a
Yeah,
decent
but
deal.
200, not 240, right? Because I'm going to need probably 40,000 to bring it up
Yeah,
to
yeah,
speed.
I wouldn't go 240. I'd go 200, and your ARV, I can see 350 there with this square footage and 4.2. But you're gonna need probably like 50 grand in renovations here. So because you need new appliances, you probably need a new kitchen here, you need new bathrooms.
I think it's 40, right? 40, 45. You think that would be doable?
I'd say 50 just to be safe, maybe even a little more, 60 grand in reno. The floors look great, probably just need to be refinished. The kitchen definitely needs to be replaced.
Yep.
Where is the bathroom? I don't see the bathrooms.
Yeah, and it's Reno too. That's the
Yeah, I don't
pictures.
see, they don't have pictures of bathrooms, but usually when they don't have pictures, it means it's worse than you can imagine.
It's a hot mess. That's why I wanted to come inside here, but I
Right.
don't know what's going on.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a decent project. I wouldn't offer 240, I'd go to 200. And actually, if you're gonna offer 200, I'd offer them like 185 or 190 and then come up from there.
I don't think she was under contract for 240.
It doesn't matter. It's not a real buyer.
Yeah. True.
A buyer that doesn't perform is not a buyer.
Yep.
So
That's true. That.
yeah, I would just like, especially if you're gonna be the end buyer, I'd just give them a strong offer with like 2-3% binder, 185,000 all cash, closing in 14 days or something like that, and
Yeah.
unrepresented, so they don't have to pay agents
Right.
on the
Well,
other side.
yeah, she does have like she
No,
does
she'll
like
she'll just pay her realtor, but she might not have to pay
Well,
another
well,
realtor,
but
you know?
yeah, but I have an agent. Like this, what my friend sent it to me, so she's an agent. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. That's why I want to take a look at Dom's better because less
okay.
people. The less people involved, the better.
Less people, more money.
Exactly.
All right.
But code, whatever they have going on is not working. So they gotta
Okay.
figure it out. I'm gonna go to the
Now,
other.
now question for everyone else, because we're closer to the end. I wanted to get some calls done today. But so one of the things that I want to cover is I want to make sure nobody has questions about this. Differences between sub 2 and seller finance. So essentially, seller finance you can think of as gaining, and then subject to you can think of as paining. So sellers are in pain, right? So those are going to be the types of sellers that you're going to deal with in most scenarios. So okay. So any questions about this, guys? Ahmed, are you gonna start presenting offers that are seller finance?
I actually tried that last year and on a property in Philly. And the seller agreed and we were in good terms, but his realtor stepped in and she effed us up.
So
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that's
And it
gonna
was
be
a
an
really
obstacle.
good, it was a really good deal.
Yeah, one of the biggest obstacles is gonna be realtors because they don't
Mhm.
understand this.
Yep.
They don't know how to
Yep.
structure these deals. So you'll get a lot further with just the seller directly than going through the realtor. And if you are dealing with a realtor, then you just have to educate them as much as possible. And if you can, get directly to the seller. You can sign a non-circumvent agreement, whatever it is that needs to be signed. But in a lot of cases, and the reason realtors don't even try to make this work and don't even think about these strategies and options for their sellers is because it's not taught in school. And also it's not clear how they're going to get paid.
Yep.
So if the realtor doesn't know how they're going to get paid, then they're not going to be inclined to actually do a transaction with you.
Yeah, but the property wasn't even listed. It was an off market. But he asked her like he consulted her on the deal. She was like, no, you can't do that. They're gonna put you in a really bad situation and whatnot. And then she called us and she was like, what the hell are you trying to do to my client? I'm like, I'm sorry. Who are
So
you?
think about
And yeah,
this. You have
backed
have an owner of a house. They go to a realtor and they say, hey, I have a buyer. They want to buy my house. What do you think about this offer? And it's a seller finance offer, which has no commissions or no incentives for that realtor. What is the first thing that realtor is going to try to do?
to ruin the deal.
Take the
Okay.
listing.
Yeah, take the listing, exactly.
Take the listing, list it on the
make more
market
money.
so they can make a commission.
Sure.
Right? So your incentives are not aligned with the and even if you presented a cash offer to that seller, right? The realtor would have
Yep.
probably said, oh, yeah, I could get you more money. So same stuff, same thing. So anytime you're dealing with realtors, you have to build good rapport with them. And you also have to put it in the seller's mind that listen, I don't mind going through your realtor. I don't mind going through your attorney if I have to. I have no issues with any of that. What I do have an issue with is I don't like to bring parties into a transaction that have no incentive in that transaction. So let's figure out how we're going to pay your realtor first before we bring her in, because every time I do a transaction and the other party isn't being compensated and they're just a friend, the transaction always gets ruined because they try to sway you away from me and just gain the business instead of looking out for what's best for you in your financial situation, right? And then you build the rapport and you figure out a payment and you offer that up front that, hey, we would like to get you paid on this transaction as a realtor. And then they will be on your side in most instances. But like I said, when somebody takes a deal to a realtor, the first thing the realtor would do is try to list the house so they can get a commission.
Absolutely.
That's why I actually like attorneys more than realtors. Because anytime we do business with attorneys, or we like have the attorney has to check our contract or whatever the case is, they just point out stupid things in a contract that they think are going clause, but they would say, oh, you can't have a memorandum of contract clause in here, right? Or like instead of putting 15 days, can you put a date in the agreement? Like stupid things like that. Or, hey, you need to add a clause that states that this agreement is being governed by the laws of Florida or whatever, right? Attorneys are not trying to prevent the deal from happening. They're just trying to make sure that from a technical perspective, the contract is valid and legal. So I much rather deal with attorneys than realtors or agents, because realtors and agents always just look for a way to get a commission in a transaction. Cool. So last question for you guys is, does anybody have leads for me to call? Tough leads. Somebody who's asking for too much money. Riley, what you got? I know you have somebody.
Trying to look to see if I got anything right now. Hold on.
Aldo, have you followed up by chance with Judy?
I haven't had a chance. I haven't followed up with her now. I know
Can
you
you?
guys had a conversation last time. I don't know if you guys.
I had
you
a
guys ever
conversation
talked
with
to
her. I had another conversation with her later on. She's kind of going back. She's like, oh, it's not gonna foreclose. It's not gonna foreclose. I feel like she's lying.
She is
Would you be
lying.
able to? Yeah, would you be able to follow up with her?
I can follow up with her. Yeah, absolutely.
And remember, it's about the property in rural, not the other one.
Ooh. Okay, rural. Got it.
I had sent
Cool.
you one, I think, last week, Sam. Let me try to find her.
Cool.
You can hear me?
Say that again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Oh, okay. No, I had sent one like last week, but let me try and find her again. Maybe another one.
Let's see. Gina, who was Lewis screaming at? A seller? Why didn't he do it on the live? Lewis stepped outside and we almost had a heart attack in here. Because he was screaming so loud. They're like, stop it, stop it. I guess the seller just kept talking over him and wouldn't let him talk. And he just had to scream at her. All right, let's see, Barbara. Let's see if
Here,
I have that lead in here.
I had sent it to you like last week.
And did we call it on the last live
Nah.
or we didn't?
Nah, you didn't call it.
All right, let's see. Let's see this house. Alright.
So the thing is, I think she has like a mortgage or reverse mortgage on this house, I think for like 160 or something like that. And
That's amazing.
she was waiting until Trump won the election to sell the house.
Mm.
And then after the election has came, she's been a little bit of hardball. So
Mm. I don't have her in my system for some. 904. Yeah, I actually don't have her in my system. I guess I didn't save her. I didn't see this last time. So let's put her in. Boom. Barbara. Okay. Let's give her a call. Ahmed, she didn't pick up. What do we do now? Do we send a text?
call her 4 more
Ah.
times.
We could wait a little bit.
Dude, what are you doing? You're destroying it. Did, did it ring? I couldn't even hear nothing.
Can you guys hear now? The ringing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
now we
call has
can.
been forwarded to voicemail. The person.
Well, first I called 3 times from one phone number, then I use another number. So let's try Jacksonville phone number.
Do you ever send a text message after the phone call?
Yeah, sometimes I'll send a bait text. Something like, hey Barbara, numbers have changed. Offer since Trump won. Give me a call.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
I just messaged her and I said, Barbara, the numbers have changed since Trump won the office. Please give us a call back. So let's see if she bites. All right, cool. So seems like she's not gonna pick up. 2:30. I have a couple of meetings that I have to go to, so we're gonna wrap this up for today.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Happy Thanksgiving to you
Thank
all
you.
as well.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Thank you guys for joining once again, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 1 o'clock.